All right, good morning, everybody. Everybody's favorite topic, safety. Work zone safety, it's a tough nut to crack. It seems like every year we're handed MOTs and we bid jobs and we get contracts and we get them set up the way we think they should go year in and year out. We think, well, this job's just like that job was, on and on. And it's not always the case. Every job is individual and unique. It's always it's one of those things where you get a project, you set it up, and you think it's going to go just fine, and traffic doesn't comply, and all of a sudden we're in a bad bind. We missed last year, and we've got a few things to talk about that kind of happened while we were away. Okay, these are things that we deal with on the job and the things we deal with in the office. But at the same time, we don't get much training on them. And when we missed last year, we missed a few things. One of them's changes to the Q truck system. Okay, is everybody in here familiar with Q trucks? Okay, out on the project, I'm talking more like highway type work. Okay, we'll kind of go over a couple of the Q truck changes, some of the good things and some of the bad things. I don't want to say bad things. Some of the good things and some of the things that don't always work so well with respect to the Q trucks. We'll go over a couple of injuries that have happened, what we're trying to do to resolve these injuries. These are injuries that when they happen, it's like, what can we do to prevent these? We dissect it and we try to look for ways to prevent them from happening again, despite our best efforts with maintenance of traffic and Q trucks and things like that. Some things we just can't prevent. We try and get back to the drawing board and get them fixed. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about closures and restrictions, detour management, flagging. Okay. Oh. So here's our Q truck. Okay, these are what we see out on the road. Most of the time they work in tandem. Okay, that's part of the Q truck program. Okay, we can take a look at this one. It's got a crash attenuator on it. It's got a message board. Okay, when we taper out a project and we've got traffic funneling into one lane to go around our work area, sometimes a queue forms. Okay, does everybody understand the queue? Okay, when backup of cars. Okay, well when that happens, we've got all kinds of things going on. We've got inattentive drivers, we got high speeds, we've got high traffic volumes. All those things combined create a queue, and unfortunately, causes accidents or intrusions into our work site. That's kind of what our concern is on our level. We want to protect the public, but at the same time, I want to protect our workers behind the wall. Okay, so these are deployed. This is one that's fully deployed. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about deployment versus staging for deployment. So here's Protect the Q program from INDOT. Okay, Q Awareness Program in 2020 launched a Protect the Q program. Pairs 2 trucks to get ahead of the backup to alert motorists to uncupping traffic backups so they can slow their speeds in advance of the queue. I read a report not too long ago about hard braking, and that was a really difficult report to read from Purdue. Over the span of a whole year, they recorded all the hard braking incidents and how the Q trucks impacted the change in hard braking. It was 80% reduction in hard braking circumstances. That's significant. Okay, that's a successful program, and I hope to see some of those numbers increase and get even better, because as this program evolves, we're making small little changes here and there to this Q truck program that's eventually going to bear better fruit. So hopefully my video will work here. So here's a Q truck. You can see the attenuator fully deployed. And here comes the inattentive driver. And the smarmy trucker. Like you didn't know he wrecked. Okay, taking a look at this plenty of notice. A little bit of volume over there in the driving lanes, but the entry ramp there, he had plenty of notice to see that attenuator and the message board. And you saw there that the very last second was when he broke. Got another little video of a compilation of some Q truck incidents. And I show these to you just to kind of show what we're faced against. And every one of these crashes that you see, that's one less vehicle in our work zone. This guy's in there even on the shoulder. Unreal. All them flashing lights. Now this one here is the same wreck in a couple of different perspectives. There he goes around. Multiple cameras on this Q truck. Woo! Pushed that Q truck down into the median or the grassy area there, rolled it. That's a tough ride for those guys. You know, a lot of those guys actually wear a head and neck restraint system like in IndyCar, the Hans neck system, just to help brace for the impacts of those. There's how it's supposed to function. Now this is like a next generation attenuator. Some of our earlier attenuators required full head-on impact for them to function properly. These will actually take a little bit of a side hit because we learned that, as you saw in some of these videos, some of the cars that come into the attenuator, they're not always a direct hit right into that thing for it to fold up and absorb the impact. Okay, so when they go around, they hit that edge. And so these next generation attenuators will help kind of absorb some of those offset wrecks. So are the Q trucks working? Yes, they are. Okay, and I just mentioned that 80% statistic. That's significant. Okay, are all the bugs worked out? Not necessarily. Okay, and one of the challenges that we came across this past few years is making sure that our Q truck system functions properly. Okay, there's a design for these Q trucks to go around and get ahead of the queue, but what if we have such traffic interruptions that don't allow for that? Okay, and some of our maps and our detours and our processes to bring the Q trucks back around, that's not a one-size-fits-all program, and those are some of the challenges we're working with. When to deploy and when not to deploy. Okay, there's a certain set of procedures, and they're in black and white on paper, but it doesn't always work out very well when you're staged in an area and all of a sudden the wrecks caused you the inability to get out ahead of this queue. So it's not a perfect program, but I think it's a good program and it's worthy of doing. So anytime we get to see these Q trucks in our contracts, let's take advantage of them. Make sure your Q truck drivers get the right training they need. Okay, there's a real short video for the Q truck drivers to watch. That being said, I think safety guys need to get out and have some additional conversations with those truck drivers and see what their needs are. Their mirrors working good? Do they understand the full deployment of their truck apparatus? Okay, they're not all the same. Obviously, the most common work zone crash or rear end accidents. Speed limits greater than 50. We'll get to speed limits here in a minute. Okay, 14 people killed in 2018. I know a lot of people are like, wow, it was 4 or 5 years ago. Statistics lag that far back behind, okay? If you think about it, in 2018 when they had that many accidents, it wasn't until 2020 that they came up with this Q truck program, okay? Wheels turn slow, but we got to make sure we're doing the right things when we make legislation and laws. This statistic here kind of got me. 4 out of 5 people killed in work zones are drivers and passengers and not highway workers. I get a lot of feedback from some of the workers in the field. They say, well, you know, I'm here trying to work, and these people don't care. They're racing around us and stuff. Well, they're the ones that are putting themselves in peril too. It's my job as a safety guy to protect my workers and try and help them get the right setup, but we also have to help the traveling public. Okay, so it's a door that swings both ways, and when it comes to public safety, worker safety, we're trying to come to a nice balance to where both people are being protected in our work zones. Okay. Here's another statistic that's pretty interesting. It only takes 1 minute to travel through a 2-mile work zone going 45 than 65. 1 minute. You know, that's a stat that maybe, you know, we as supervisors in our industry, maybe that's something we can share in our social circle sometimes. I don't think people realize it, okay? It's not very often we have a job or a project that goes further than 2 miles. We have a lot of moving operations. Every so often we'll have some longer ones. We'll be talking 2 minutes, okay? That might be one of those things, if we share some statistics like that to people, they might not realize, or they might realize that, you know, hey, it's not going to take me as long to get where I got to go as I think, okay? Getting people to slow down in our work zone is real important. We'll switch gears here now off of Q trucks and get into some of our injuries that we incurred this year. I'm going to highlight 2 in specific, just because I think they're relevant to everybody in this room, and we're susceptible to these very exact injuries that we're going to talk about. We had a flagger get hit this year, and I know that's a common thing. We hear about it at least once or twice a year in every company, it seems like, and word travels fast from one company to another. We had a moving operation up on Highway 35, had a flagger stationed on the side of the road right where he was supposed to be. Car's approaching. He sees the flagger. He starts to stop, but the car behind him did not. Okay? He hits the car. They call him driver 1, driver 2. Driver 1 hits driver 2, veers off to the side of the road. The flagger sees this, and what's the one thing that we try and train our flaggers to do? The very first thing, find an escape route. Okay? So his quick thinking, here's my escape route. His escape route led him right into the pathway of this car. Okay? Yeah, it wasn't pretty. It's not the phone call that safety guys like to get. I don't get phone calls asking me what I had for lunch. When my phone rings, it's usually not good. Okay, this guy gets lifelined, and fortunately he survived. Okay, terrible accident. We had a huge investigation. This is from the state police report. Okay, we can take a look at that vehicle at the top there. That's vehicle number 1. He veers and hits vehicle number 2, which is stopped already for the flagger. And if you look at the position of the flagger, he's right where he's supposed to be. His escape route, though, puts him right into the pathway of this guy. Okay, tough to solve this problem from a safety perspective. Okay, flaggers are so vulnerable, and this guy did everything he was supposed to do. Had his escape route, had the car stopped, the car acknowledged him. It's the guy behind him that didn't. So how do you solve this one? You know, it's really tough. You know, dual escape routes, more signage. We've racked our brains. We did everything we could. We ended up positioning a few more trucks down the road with some message boards. Got an attenuator truck out there. Last thing you want to do is repeat that accident in the same situation. This is a country road. Okay, it's somewhat busy. It's not a high volume highway. I still don't. This happened earlier in the season. I still don't think this guy's back to work. Okay, this is another bad call we got. Dan, we just had a guy get hit by a piece of equipment. So what happened? A semi-truck grazed our barrier wall and hit our clamp, threw it into so-and-so. He's down. Ambulance is here now. Take a look at this photo where you see the front guy standing was where the guy got hit with you'll see the piece of equipment here in a minute, the clamp. The person you see in the background there, we actually had a spotter there to holler at a guy when we saw an oncoming vehicle that was getting too close to our barrier wall. Hey man, look out. Any kind of warning system we could get. So where do you put that guy? You put him too far down and you're ineffective if somebody swerves after the fact. You put him too close and you don't give him enough reaction time. It's a tough decision to make when you're out in the field for your guys and you're trying to provide a spotter for your men. Okay, there's the clamp. Okay, that's a heavy piece of equipment. Anybody that's moved barrier wall in this room knows that's not something a guy goes over and grabs and drags and puts in the back of a pickup truck. That's a heavy tool. This is what it looked like after impact. Look at that steel. That's 1-inch steel with 1/2-inch steel wrap. That's a hard, heavy hit. That truck grazed our wall, hit this clamp. Right into our guy. Another bad call that we got with a good outcome. I'm happy to say about 2 hours later, 2 or 3 hours later, this guy walked out of the hospital with his wife. Very, very lucky. So here again, how do you solve that problem? Okay, we've already restricted lanes. We've got 11-foot lane on one side trying to get semi-rigs through, trying to slow them down. Even at 45, this guy could have grazed that wall and still have thrown that clamp into him. Had a good safety suggestion though. One guy says, well, what if we put some highway tape all over that thing and really light it up? That's a good suggestion. That was a good safety catch. All of our clamps now are going to have DOT tape on them, high reflective tape. So what can we do? We're going to try and implement a plan, okay? Anybody familiar with Senate Bill 179 and 1035? Okay, 2 separate bills. One's in the Senate, one's in the House. Both of them want to apply photograph speed enforcement in our work zones. Okay, that's a tough battle. That one's been in and out of the legislation for a few years now. We just got it passed. The only difference between the two, one was an 11 mile an hour over the speed limit enforcement. The other was 12 miles an hour over. I'm for 0 miles an hour over. Sometimes you got to take what you can get. Okay, for us in the safety field, this is a starting point. We can get here, okay, and we can get that number reduced. I think they ended up settling on the 12 mile an hour over enforcement, and it is going to be somewhat experimental in some zones. It's not going to be in all zones. As a safety guy, I'm happy just to get the sign up that says photo enforcement. Okay, that's going to get a lot of brake tapping. Okay, nobody wants that. Nobody wants this. You ever see these nice speed buggies? I think these are pretty effective and they work pretty good in our work zones, whether it's in a highway setting or a municipal setting. I saw some guys shaking their heads, no, they don't. I think they have some impact. Do they work 100%? No, because you're just going to have some people that don't care, and they're just going to buzz through anyway. When you got that number and your speed flashes up in front of your face, there's a lot goes through your head about tapping that brake. There's a cop ahead. Oh, man, I'm going too fast. What's going on? Okay, I think they have an impact. Okay, so here's a couple things that I think they're going to make a difference. Okay, active speed limit photo enforced. Okay, traveling public sees that, and that's going to have an impact. Okay, there's one of the mobile units that was been used in some other states. So even in a moving operation, or say for instance, they only have maybe 5 of these, and they got 10 projects going on in the area, they can move it around from project to project wherever our problem areas are. Okay. One thing I want to mention too, as we're going through some of the solutions, is the proper function of our MOT. And it's not anybody's fault when an MOT is designed by an engineer. They follow the MUTCD, and they make up an MOT for traffic. And on paper, it works great. We get out in the field, we get it set up, we start our project, and all of a sudden something's wrong, something's not working. Okay? Can we make changes to improve the MOT at that point? What do? Do we just live with it and say, well, that's the way it's designed and it's going to go? okay? There are some things we can do to change it. We can go back to the engineer. We can go back to any municipality and say, hey, I've noticed that cars are really backing up. We need more signage. We can always go above and beyond the MOT, okay, to help protect it. Run it through your traffic engineer. If it's a DOT job, run it through the engineer. Let's make sure that we get a better functioning MOT. LEOs, okay, law enforcement officers, they're working for us. When we got a LEO out on our project, you as supervisors, go up and talk to them, okay? You'll see them pull up on the job and they'll just sit there. That's what they think they want you to do. They're working for you. Go over and talk to them. Let them know, hey, can I get you to sit here? Or, hey, around lunchtime we're getting a bunch of trucks come in. We could probably use you back a little bit further to let these trucks in and out, okay? Let them know what you need. Talk to them. Get them where we need them, where we need those lights, okay? Emergency services, kind of ran into this a few times this year. Got into a circumstance where the LEO had to be deployed for an emergency circumstance, had some emergency services come through, and nobody knew to make an alternate route for them. They couldn't get through our work zone. Absolutely not. We had holes. I mean, there was just, no, we weren't getting through these areas. We either had to come in one side or the other. Just pay mind and respect to the emergency vehicles. Always think that through. If there's an emergency going on outside of our project, accident down the road, grandma's having a heart attack and the ambulance trying to get through, think about your emergency services and what your plan's going to be to get them through. Okay, because after the fact, a couple times with this circumstance, those were some not too fun conversations to have when you don't let emergency services through to help somebody. So, warning signs of work zones. Seems like we're getting more and more out there, and it kind of ties in with road construction fatigue. I don't know about you guys, but it's just, I don't know a road right now that doesn't have orange signs on it. It's just everywhere. Our infrastructure's in bad shape, and it's our job to repair it and fix it, okay, or lay down some new. That's all good and fine, but everybody gets road construction fatigue, everybody. Kind of tying back to the Q trucks, that's one of the reasons why the Q trucks aren't fully deployed all the time. They're only deployed when they need to be, because it's supposed to be something new, something intentional, something to grab your attention right off the bat, okay, instead of just the same old barrel and the road construction ahead signs. I'm going to ask a couple questions. Are total closures safer? What's your guys' opinion? Who thinks a total closure is safer than running through the job site? Okay, about split. Contracts are starting to lean more and more towards total closures. That's fine with me, but they still fare us with some problems. And that's some of the things we tied into here: emergency services around, accidents, detours. There's a lot to be considered, and there's still some bugs that need to get worked out on those kind of things. I'd say we could probably look more to some more crossovers in future contracts and total closures. Bad side of that, compressed schedules, heavy hours, lot of fatigue, okay? I think it's an imposition on the traveling public for a little while, but I think they like it too. I talked to a lot of people and they're upset. Well, when's the road opening? You know, well, sorry about your inconvenience for a month, okay? But now we're gonna do this safe. Everybody's gonna go home at night, and I think it's safer for the traveling public. Who's checking the subcontractor setups? When we get out on a job, a lot of times we sub out our traffic control setup. There's several businesses now, that's all they do is traffic setups. But who follows through and makes sure that's getting done right, done properly, the spacing, the signage? Who maintains those? Are they getting maintained properly? May not be in your job description, but your job description is to protect your people and notify the public of your job intentions and your work you're doing down the road. We've got to make sure that those are in the right place. And kind of like I mentioned earlier, make sure they're functioning properly, okay? They don't always work as intended. You know, their intention is to get everybody in the job site and right back out, real nice and smooth. Doesn't always work that way. If it's not working that way, let's raise our hand, make a call, get some of them fixed. I'm open to suggestions. I sit on a few committees for ICI. I feel like we got a good safety rapport. I talk to several. If you work for a company in here, I guarantee I know your safety guy or safety gal. We talk on a regular basis. I get phone calls. We bounce ideas off of each other. When we say that we're all in this together, from a safety perspective, we are. We're constantly trying to evolve safety into getting guys to work, getting them home. I used to work in the field, faced a lot of dangers myself, and I used to go home sometimes and think, if my wife knew what I was dealing with out here on this road day in and day out, she wouldn't let me do this job. It's dangerous. I'll be around for a few hours. If you want to grab me during break or something, you got some suggestions or some ideas, or even if you've got a complaint that you think needs fixed out on these roads, let me, and if not me, let your safety person know at your job. We truly want to fix these things, and like I said, don't like getting those phone calls, but I take them 24/7, and I try and respond. We try to respond the best we can. So with that, anybody got anything in open forum that they want to discuss? Anything from that table over there? I didn't think so. What we got? That is measured by the highway detection systems. I don't know if you've ever got on the INDOT website where they have cameras and traffic detection devices. But and I'll tell you right now, it's a Purdue study. Anybody can look it up, and it has a 12-month span, and it has a running bar chart going through there of times of day and everything. And all of a sudden, when the hard braking comes during rush hours. And it's all just the detection systems that are on the highways. I think there was only maybe 3 highways that were involved in that study, and all the detection units down through there, and they were intentionally set through construction zones to measure the effectiveness of the Q truck. So yeah, Big Brother's watching. Anybody else? All right, thanks everybody. Stay safe. Have a great season, man.